Hello, everyone. Welcome. We have a really short video for you today. I'm just focusing on the top three things you need to know about homeowners insurance on the Alabama Gulf Coast and how that's different from everywhere else. Our special guest today is Miss Olivia Whittle with Goosehead Insurance. She is the insurance queen. My name is Rana. I'm with Exit Allstar GCR, and we're here to be a resource for you. So we're just going to go through some topics and details. And if you have any questions, we also have availability to do one-on-one consultations to focus on your personal insurance questions. All right, Olivia, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Awesome. So with homeowners insurance in Alabama, especially the Alabama Gulf Coast, I know it is very unique and very surprising to people when they move down here and they're like, what are you talking about? This is a lot of extra stuff I'm not used to. So, what is one thing you wish every homeowner knew about insurance for this area?
Yeah. This question in general is good for everybody, even if you're not on the coast, you're in the middle of, Arkansas. It's always good to understand that homeowners insurance is just not a set it and forget it situation, especially here. Things are always changing. We do live in a beautiful place, but it is very unique to, like we know, hurricanes, storms, just wind and hail in general. We also get moratoriums, insurance, stuff like that, and then also special underwriting guidelines that we specifically have to follow, and they're always changing. So it's always good to make sure, even if you have a specific agent or you don't know who your agent is, make sure you know who they are in case, there's an event that happens, or you just want to understand your policy more and make sure that everything still meets the guidelines.
Well, awesome. That definitely makes a lot of sense. The homeowners insurance on the Gulf Coast, why is that so different from a lot of other parts of the country?
It's going to be mainly because of the storms and the hurricanes that we might not have gotten them, in the past 2 years, or I think the last time that we got hit directly in the Mobile County was 2021, if I'm
That sounds
correct.
right. Yeah.
But it also involves, Texas has been hit, Louisiana, Florida, that goes into play with all the coastlines. So our environment is very, very different compared to other places, and our risks are a lot higher. And we've seen that with the hurricanes and just the storms, especially the past. If you're involved in the Mobile County right now, we had probably 15 inches of rain the past week. And
we did.
That's a big driver as well.
Yes, we did. Well, speaking of a lot of rain, that often leads to flooding in areas. And, flood insurance is such a big thing that people don't realize, and like being in a flood zone, why that's important. So, could you touch base on flood insurance and even touch base on like the people that say, hey, I'm not in a flood zone. Why do I even need to worry about that?
Yep, absolutely. So the first big thing that, some people may know or they might not know is on a standard homeowner's policy, flood insurance is not included. It's always its own separate policy. Flooding can happen outside of high risk flood zones, as we call flood zone A or AE, or our high risk flood zones in the insurance world. But I always like to, especially now what happened up in North Carolina, most of those people, they were in an X flood zone, not in a flood zone. Everybody's in a flood zone. You're either in a low risk flood zone or a high risk. So your low risk flood zones, you're not going to be required by your mortgage company to hold flood insurance, but it's also the most affordable flood insurance. So it's always something you can look into. It's very attainable. Now, your AE flood zones, it's going to be required from mortgage company standpoint and also, insurance standpoint. We're going to require you to have it. So flooding can happen just from heavy rain. Just happened, prior to, I saw a lot of flooding streets that probably have never flooded before. But with 15 inches of rain, there's nowhere for that rain to go. It just continuously rains.
Yeah.
Storm surge. So if you're closer to the Gulf Shore area, Orange Beach, that's where that can occur. And then just tropical storms. They roll
Hmm.
in. It might not be, just raining all the time, but that's where that would come from and causes a lot of flood damage.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I know that especially beachfront, coastal, like very coastal front properties, they're in that storm surge, like high velocity area.
Hmm.
So it's even more important to have coverage,
Yep,
especially with all
absolutely.
the hurricanes and things that could come our way.
Yep.
Um, so rolling into hurricanes, uh, what do you think is just one little tidbit that people need to know about hurricane and wind deductibles for their home?
Yep. So the biggest thing to know about your hurricane deductible or your wind and hail deductible, they kind of go hand in hand, but there are oftentimes percentages based on what's called your dwelling coverage, and it's not always just a flat amount. So, kind of for example, a standard wind and hail deductible or hurricane deductible in our area is a 2%. So, if your dwelling coverage is set at 400,000, 2% of that, your deductible is going to be at $8,000.
Mm,
That's your out of pocket expense. If a storm rolls around and it messes up your roof, you're going to have to pay out
yeah,
$8,000 for that. So that's a big thing to know. It's not just a flat amount. And over time, I'll kind of get into this more later, your dwelling coverage will increase. So your wind and hail deductible will increase as well. And if you don't know that, you might be $10,000 out of pocket because a storm comes and you don't know that it increased by $2,000. So that could be a financial stressor after a
yeah,
storm, after a big stressor, anyways. Then you have
yeah.
that financial side that could be a problem as well.
Well, is that a reason that some people get surprised after they try to put in a hurricane claim? Because,
Yep.
if you're not ready for your rainy day fund, which that is a literal rainy day fund,
Yeah,
that's a lot of money to be prepared with.
it is. Or they just don't understand. They see 2% and they're like, okay, 2%. They don't know what 2%. The 2% is
Mm,
of. It could
I
be, if
see.
it was just $10,000, okay, 2% isn't that bad. But if you
Yeah.
have a $600,000 house, you're looking at a very big deductible to pay out. And
Mm,
that could be surprising for a lot of people if they don't completely understand where that 2% is coming from.
I gotcha. That makes sense. Um, I've heard that insurance can have a moratorium. Is that something
Yes.
that you see often?
Yes, we see it. And we just
Okay.
recently had one. But
Oh.
a few of our carriers, sometimes
Mhm.
they will, not do it when they see the track of the storm not coming that close to us. But some carriers write in a big range of coastal
Okay.
regions. So it was mainly in Texas and Louisiana is
Mhm.
where that tropical storm, I think they finally named it. I'm not 100% sure. But some of
I
our
don't know either.
carriers did put it out on us. So that is just a temporary restriction from the insurance carriers that we can't place insurance with them. We can't write new business. You can't switch over your insurance,
Mhm.
and things like that. No new policies, no policy changes. You can't increase your coverage if you have really low coverage and you're like, oh no, storm's coming. I need coverage. We
Yeah.
can't do it. And then sometimes you can't, if you're wanting to switch your carriers, you can't switch them over.
So that is probably a big reason why when there is a named storm in the Gulf, that you can't close on your real estate transaction because there's no
Yeah,
way to get insurance. And you're
no,
just you're just
especially
risking it.
hurricane season coming up here soon. I personally haven't been in that situation where that's happened, but probably whenever the hurricane, I think it was Sally, was coming in 2021,
Hmm.
there were probably people trying to close on a house and they couldn't get the insurance in place because we had the moratorium set in place for
Yeah.
us, and we can't do anything. Unfortunately,
No.
we can't do anything. The insurance carriers don't want to take on new risk when they see a storm coming because
Yeah.
they don't care that you're buying a new house. A storm's coming. They don't want to have to pay something out if something happens.
Yeah, exactly. I have seen in my own real estate transactions how roofs are such a big deal when it comes to purchasing a house. And I know Alabama, especially Mobile and Baldwin County, they're part of like the Strengthen Alabama Homes. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
grant program. And, I've seen where people have taken advantage of that. Why are roofs such a big deal with insurance and especially an older roof?
Yeah. So first and foremost, we know roofs are very expensive and they are probably one of the most frequent damage from a storm. That's the
Mm.
first impact that your home gets is your roof. It
Yeah.
can be just from some storms include the hail that's going to damage, we have trees falling. Mobile is a very tree area. So we see a lot of limbs just flying off here and there. But it's also the insurance companies have started paying a lot more attention to roof age and roof condition. So a lot of
Hmm.
carriers have tightened in on their guidelines regarding roofs. So how old your roof, even if your roof is 5 to 7 years old, but it's been through a lot and shingles are curling, you have damaged shingles, that can sway the companies from, they might decline coverage from you. They might,
That would be bad.
require additional fixes to your roof after you've already bought the house, and that's more financial things you're having to pay out after you've already
Hmm.
closed. And then also limits your coverage for roofs. So typically, roofs you want to see them at replacement cost. If you have an older roof, that's when the companies don't want to write that home anymore, or
Hmm.
they put a coverage called actual cash value, which is depreciated over time the longer the
I
roof is on
gotcha.
the home.
Well, speaking of roofs, how does a gold fortified home and like a gold fortified certificate help with your insurance down here?
Yep. So you'll have those two levels. You'll have gold fortified, which is the whole home.
Hmm.
And that is a really big discount on your homeowner's insurance. And then you'll also have the fortified roof certificate that you can get
Hmm.
on existing homes or older homes. You can get the fortified roof put on. That also
Hmm.
gives you a good discount as well. And it also gives you a sense of security.
Yeah.
Insurance companies don't give discounts for no reason. They
Yeah.
have they do all sorts of research and they understand the impact that these fortified roofs have on homes and how they are much more durable.
Hmm.
So it's always a good idea, like you said, to strengthen Alabama homes. I think it happens, if I'm correct, 2 times a year, 2 or 4. I'm
I
not
think it's two, if not three. I
two.
want to say it might be once quarter, but I think it may be 2 times a year.
Yeah,
It's like
that's what
a
I'm thinking.
single sign up day for each
Yep,
county, and you got to get your stuff in fast. Um,
yep.
but I know some people that have benefited from that program, and
It is
it helped
very
them out
worth
a
it.
lot because they couldn't put a roof on their house and they needed one.
Yep.
So that's the point of that program. And if y'all do have any questions about that, we'll be glad to share that with you too. Um, so going over, you had mentioned that sometimes your deductibles and things can change. So it
Mhm.
sounds like it is almost necessary to review your insurance policy every year with your agent. Is that right?
That very correct. Yes,
Okay.
you want to, even if you don't do it with your agent, you need to make sure you're checking your emails because that's where all your renewals and all your insurance information will come to. And
Yeah.
if you miss something, that could have an impact. I always tell people, in a year, make sure you're checking your emails. Don't
Yeah.
just, if you see something and you think it's not real, make sure you look
Hmm.
at it. If you have any questions, call your agent. They can pull everything up for you. Um, it's always, you need to check it every year. If you don't see an increase, awesome. Make sure
Hmm.
you're still checking it.
Yeah. Awesome. I have actually noticed on my own insurance policy that there's a difference between like what my house is worth, like what the real estate market says,
Mhm.
and what the insurance says is my cost to rebuild or what they say it's worth. So
Yep.
could you, I know I can handle the real estate question, but could you kind of explain that difference that you see on a policy? Because it has caught me off guard before.
Yep.
Like, what is this? I didn't pay that much for this house.
Yep. And it is probably one of our most asked questions when we're reviewing an insurance quote or an insurance policy with the client. It's like, hey, I'm purchasing this home for, X amount, but you're $200,000 more on your dwelling coverage.
Ah,
So your dwelling
yeah.
coverage does not include land value or location. In our area, those two are kind of a big name.
Yeah.
So sometimes the dwelling coverage can be lower than your purchase price. So if you're buying a house, beachfront in Orange Beach, your dwelling coverage is not going to cost $1 million. Some do, but
Yeah.
most of the time that is going to be the land value and your location of the home you're purchasing. Insurance carriers or insurance companies don't insure land or location. So we do the home itself. And what we do is replacement cost. That focuses on the materials that it's going to take to rebuild your home, along with the labor as well is included in that. And we use a third party that updates how much building materials cost. That's why you see your dwelling coverage change year to year, because those materials we all know is increasing nowadays.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that is why
Absolutely.
you see your dwelling coverage going up and up. It's because those materials are increasing every year, and the carriers understand that, and they look at that and reevaluate your dwelling coverage each year.
That does make sense. Well, unfortunately, I didn't have you around when I had that question, so thank you. Uh, but I am so thankful that you took the time to just share your insights about homeowners insurance, especially on the Gulf Coast, because it's kind of a whole different ball game down here with
Mhm.
that. And so I appreciate you. And y'all, if you have any insurance questions, Olivia is always available for questions, concerns, just bouncing some things off of her. She's always very easy to get on the phone and chat with. And if you have any real estate questions, I am here to help. But that wraps up our webinar today. So I hope this was very informative for y'all. And again, if you want to schedule a one-on-one consultation with either me or Olivia, you're welcome to do that, and we'll send you the link. Bye, guys.
Absolutely. Bye.